Humanity's greatest flaw, example 7, fall of the Western Roman Empire and the onset of the Dark Ages. Strong civilizations falter, and eventually the scales balance. This is going to be about the fall of the Western Roman Empire and the onset of the Dark Ages. The Western Roman Empire over time faced pressure from immigrants, in this case, Germanic tribes. Rome's sanctimonious treatment of those refugees created jealousy, envy, anger in those tribes whose only crime was being victims and displaced from their own lands. Yes, to Romans, these were little more than savages, barbarous tribes lacking anything that Romans would consider as equals. Romans judged these new people within the prism of their own worldview, and they were so arrogant and so sure that their society would never disappear. They lacked the humility and empathy to place themselves in the shoes of those they judged. They never considered those they saw straggling across the borders, broken and dispirited, might have once been very much like Romans. The part I find ironic is Christianity at this time was firmly in place, and Emperor Constantine himself, at the Council of Nicaea, picked the very books that are today in the Bible. The understanding we have of the Bible today is we're supposed to show compassion, charity. I've heard it said Jesus created a new commandment, which was to love one another. It seems too many at that time failed to see the need to aid those in need of help. Instead, they used them and ignored them. At the time, no Roman conceived of the ideal that those they treated so badly would end up destroying Rome, because they had to struggle, suffer, and sacrifice. They would eventually be tough enough to turn on their tormentors. Only 3 things were needed, and Romans created the conditions for all 3. They needed time to create a strong identity based on mutual struggle and a need to work together to survive. 2. Neglect. The Romans, because of how they treated the weakest among them, created envy and hatred. Ancients refer to envy as the evil eye. 3. A leader. One battle-hardened and, most important, one trained by Romans so that he would understand the mind of the Roman leaders, citizens, and, most important, military tactics of the army. Alaric, a Visigoth who once fought on the empire's behalf in the north, would fill that role. He was passed over for promotion in the ranks of the Roman legions. It angered him, and it led him to create his own future by taking away Rome's. By failing to live up to their own standards in their religion, besides, they sowed the seeds for their children's suffering at the hands of those that were beneath their notice only a few decades ago. They were so certain in their own moral superiority, they failed to realize they were dooming their own society and their children's future to the same life that the Germanic tribes were forced to endure. This is part of my human flaw argument about the need for certainty. In this case, it's also about arrogance, but I find it also a cautionary warning for the United States. I'm going to do another part to this, which is part 2, but it will have more to do with what I think is going on in the United States. So I'll end this one here. Thank you. 100 AD to 476 AD. All it took for a thriving empire to sow its own destruction, because they were unable to consider that a bit of charity to those disadvantaged, maybe to teach them and allow them a chance to join Roman society as equals, might have made the empire stronger. Instead, their lack of wisdom doomed their own empire and their offspring, leaving nothing for the future for almost 5 centuries.